Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're in Deuteronomy chapter 10. We're looking at verses 14 through 17. Now, the last couple of days we saw how Moses had reminded the people of their great failure at Mount Sinai when they had made the golden calf and worshipped it. It had been a great sin, but God had forgiven them and renewed them, even given them again the tablets of stone with the 10 Commandments written upon them. And now as Moses goes on, he wants to remind the people that they need to have a change in their heart. They need to allow God to transform their hearts. Notice what he says in chapter 10, verses 14 through 17. To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth, and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors, and he loved them. And he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Therefore, circumcise your hearts, and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods, and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome. Moses tells them it is God who has chosen you. It is God who has redeemed you. Out of all the nations, he has chosen you as his special people. Your hearts must be circumcised. In other words, you need a change in your heart, in your soul. Allow God to transform you. You see, sometimes we make the mistake of thinking in the Old Testament it was about legalism, keeping the law. That is not true. Even in the Old Testament, we see the word, you must let God change your heart. Only he can save you. So circumcise your hearts. The outer law is simply the demonstration that you are God's people and that you are following his way. So here on the banks of the Jordan River, as the people are preparing to cross over the river into the promised land, Moses reminds them, circumcise your hearts. Now it's interesting that the Apostle Paul picks up this same theme when he writes the book of the Romans. In Romans chapter 2, verses 28 and 29, he says almost exactly the same thing. Surely he is thinking of the words of Moses when he says this. Notice what the Apostle Paul, talking about salvation by grace through faith, says in Romans 2, verses 28 and 29. He says, a person is not a Jew who is only one outwardly, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a person is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is circumcision of the heart, by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a person's praise is not from other people, but from God. So the Apostle Paul, probably remembering what Moses had said so long ago, he said we must be circumcised in our heart. We must allow the Spirit of God to do a work within us that transforms us and binds us in loyalty to God, who is the great God, the God of gods and Lord of lords, the King over all. Through faith in Jesus, we've come to know him. So allow him to transform your hearts, to circumcise your hearts. Mark you as belonging to the people of God. So Paul echoed in Romans what Moses has said in Deuteronomy. As the people prepare to cross over into the promised land, the land of Canaan, as they prepare to possess God's promise for them, he says, don't be stiff-necked any longer. Don't continue to be rebellious as you have in the past. Rather, know the forgiveness of God, know his grace, allow him to circumcise your hearts. For our God is God. Our God is Lord. He is King of kings and Lord of lords, and we should worship him with all of our heart and soul and strength. You have a great day today, and I hope you join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy.